Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hotho, and I'm here today with Lloyd Burns. Lloyd is an upper 2 point of contact athlete, and he's been competing in adaptive CrossFit since 2001. He's been doing this for a really long time. So we're going to talk about the growth of the sport, and we're going to talk about his experience as being an L1 and an L2 coach at Motor City CrossFit. Thanks so much for joining us, Lloyd.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, dude. Lloyd, I'm so glad you're here. I want to hear a little bit about your story and what got you started in adaptive athletics and eventually adaptive CrossFit.
Yeah, for sure. I currently work for the Department of Army. I've been a federal worker my entire life. So my old job, we used to do deployments out overseas. So the one deployment I did back in 2013 was out to Afghanistan. And they had a CrossFit box out there, and there's not a whole lot to do when you're out, out in theater. So besides working and eating, so it was something new, something I've heard a lot of cool things about. Just looking for something different, trying to switch up my training. So the box was called Vulture CrossFit. There's in one of the tents they had out there in the desert. But yeah, it was cool. It was the first time going in. I was like, okay, there's definitely some different movements. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be enough to, for my training purposes. But after doubling up on my normal training and CrossFit classes, I realized it wasn't sustainable because of how sore I was. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll dedicate more time to actually just doing straight CrossFit.
So you started that like 10 years ago, and you said
Mhm.
in Afghanistan?
Yep.
Wow.
So I was in the Bagram Air Force Base. So one of the two major bases that we had out there. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you're an adaptive athlete. So tell me about your adaptation, kind of what puts you in the adaptive category, a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So I'm missing my fifth, or with my pinky through my index finger on my right hand. So again, congenital defect. So I was born this way. No major surgeries or anything. Minus some, I think it was more like I don't know if I want to call it cosmetic, but just kind of just
Sure.
excess, limbs I had on my hand that would obviously weren't usable. So, but for the most part, I got decent movement with it. I can kind of move my pinky back and forth. And some
Oh, wow.
light grappling ability with it. But for the most part, I mean, all my barbell and rig movements, I use some kind of a strap. So for my barbell stuff, I'm using the deadlifting strap. And then for a relatively new thing I started using was a figure eight deadlift strap I started using for rig movements. Whereas before I used to use a lacrosse ball in my left hand to duplicate a false grip on the rig, like I would like this. I would wrap my wrist around my right hand, have a
Yeah.
cross ball, and that was how I would do all my my rig movements. Which think about it now is it's crazy. It's probably why I have elbow issues now, because it's just a real
Yeah.
aggressive. But it worked at the time. It's one of the first things that coach taught me to use. Like, it's better than what you're doing right now. And I know it may not be comfortable, but I did that for probably a good 5, 6 years before I found out my current method. But the regular weightlifting strap has been there for a good bit now for like my barbell stuff and some dumbbells, some kettlebell stuff, but kind of like the two main things I use for my equipment. So
So can you pick up things with that right hand? Like, can you grip anything, or do you always need an assistance for
so
that grip?
so I can grip. I would say probably. I mean, like this is like my water bottle, so I can kind of hook my
Okay.
finger around it. I can kind of grip it. So I would say, I mean, maybe like I don't know, 15, 20 pounds is probably the limit. Like I can hold on to it, but
Mhm.
any kind of like velocity, then no, the thing's going flying out of my hand. So it's just basic, holding and
Can you button a shirt? Can you button a dress shirt?
Yeah, I can button a dress shirt. I can tie my shoes. I can do my ties. So yeah, I do remember. I do have funny memories of doing that growing up. My parents trying to teach me, like them doing the best that they can and trying to figure it out for me, and me trying to figure it out my own. Just like looking at everybody else doing it, and it's just like I guess I'm kind of getting it right. I mean, it's a loop and it's a loop and it's tight. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's tied. It's tied.
It's
It's
tight.
all
Yeah,
good.
exactly. A lot of just trial and error for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. As you've been training for 10 years, you've started competing,
Yep.
and you've started coaching. So let's talk about both of those. Let's start with the coaching side of it, and then let's
Yeah, for
talk
sure.
about the competitive side of it. So you
Yeah,
hold an L2, which is pretty
yeah,
cool as an
yeah,
adaptive
yeah.
athlete. Um, Tell me about kind of what your experience is like getting the L1, getting the L2, going through the 2 day course for each of them. Maybe, how
Okay.
they're like, for anybody who doesn't know, there's breakouts in the L1 and L2, and those
Right.
breakouts can be really revealing of your own mobility issues, let alone having an adaptation. So, what was
Yeah.
that like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say just I guess the overall experience was pretty similar for both. Because you go in there, you kind of have an idea based off what you studied and what people have told you. The nerves were there a little bit more for the first one because there's an on-site test. Where the L2 now it's you leave the site and then you take the test kind of in your own time within a period of time afterwards. But yeah, it was a lot of it's cool just seeing the different the different type of people that were there. All shapes and sizes, different types of ability. Some people were brand new to CrossFit. Some people have been there for a while. Some people are just there because they wanted to learn about stuff, and like those are the kind of things were the constants. I feel like at least with the L1, and then obviously some of that stuff carries over to the L2. Then at least with the adaptive portion of it, as far as trying to demonstrate some of the movements. I mean, for the most part, doing a squat, not a big deal. Doing any kind of like pull up stuff, the rig stuff, that's when people be like, their cars start looking at you like, what is he doing? Or,
Yeah, so the kipping breakout, right, in the
yeah.
L1. Yeah, what was that like?
So that was definitely, I mean, I think that was when people started like, yeah, I was excited. They started realize, oh, okay, he's missing some fingers there. Interesting. So, I mean, at that point, my kip was, I mean, it was okay. I think I was still, at that point, I was still doing the lacrosse ball and the false grip. So it probably looked a little funky to a lot of people, but I mean, it worked, it was something that it worked for me. So, yeah, I had a couple people come up to me after the class, like, oh, hey, can you show me, like, how does that work? How did you do that? So that kind of part was pretty cool. But it was never one of those things where like, the coach would call me up and hey, like, you want to show us, how this works and how this. 'Cause at that point, I mean, the adaptive wasn't really known because this would have
Right.
been back in like 2018, 2019, roughly. Um, I mean, more so obviously with the L2, it's not that's in more, it's more, I guess I won't say it's more popular. It's just more the community has grown. And it's not as much of a thing where it's like, okay, well, I don't know, like what's wheel wide, what's the adaptive, what are the adaptive divisions? So it's pretty cool that people seeing how much the knowledge base has grown from then to then,
Hmm.
and being able to talk about more people. So it's not just like, oh, I don't know what this is. So being able to actually have a conversation with people about it, and then telling people, hey, like I'm going to be competing, and it's cool just having people say, oh yeah, I'll look for you on the look for you on the leaderboard, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, so that I would say those are probably the two kind of some of the passing thoughts between the two L1 and the L2. But yeah,
yeah. So as a coach, you coach at Motor City CrossFit,
yeah,
and do you get a chance to coach adaptive athletes? Are there any other adaptive athletes in the box that you're at?
yeah. So actually, we do. So we have one other who is an upper extremity athlete. So she has I'm sure I'm gonna butcher the name, but brachial plexus, I think is
Okay,
what
yeah,
it is.
like I think like Victor, where
Yes.
it was damaged and just can't really be
Yeah.
used, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so for her, so I think it's so like just looking at her, her arm, her hand, you wouldn't really notice anything. So I guess for her, it's more of like just like overall like grip strength, might be able to like hold certain stuff.
Okay.
And then just like overall like numbness and stuff. So honestly, I think it probably would be more similar to I would say maybe more similar to Stephen Walker.
Oh, okay.
Only because Victor's has the actual like amputation and
That's
stuff
true.
on his arm. But
Yeah.
she joined the gym a couple of years ago. So it's cool just kind of she'll I mean we'll go back and forth if she ever has questions with workouts and stuff and adaptation saying, hey, like this is something that's either, this movement I haven't quite figured it out yet, or, this is a strength building portion of the class, and do you think I should, offset different weights, or should I try to, keep same weights on the same arm? So it's just nice having that kind of conversations with people. Um, but beyond that, I mean, I think that's the only adaptive athlete we have in ours. And I think there might be one other adaptive athlete that I know of in the like it's like the greater Metro Detroit area, who's also a upper person, but I haven't had too much interaction with that person, unfortunately. I'm
Okay.
trying to wheel them into the adaptive world, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's
still
one of my hopes with this podcast too, is kind of surfacing more of us that are like
for sure.
around, and then
Mhm.
people who are sort of adjacent to our communities will be like, "Oh, dude, I heard this guy on a podcast. Like, you got to
Right,
listen
right.
to it." And then hopefully someone will get into an affiliate, and kind of start trying this thing out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. What's been
yes.
one big um, benefit that CrossFit has given you when it comes to your adaptation? Meaning, like for me,
Um,
right? It's made me stronger on the right side than I could be. What's it done for you?
I think it's just making me just a more well-rounded, fit individual. I mean, I grew up playing sports, mostly basketball and football growing up. But there was always certain movements, things like, most part, like the barbell moves, like power cleans
Yeah.
and snatches, like some of those things were, and like weighted pull-ups, even simple stuff like that. Like I just couldn't do it because I hadn't really explored, using different devices or accessories to help me do those things. So, which I kind of kick myself about now because I'm sure I would have been a much better athlete in college, but, just getting exposure to like the Olympic weightlifting movements, just different types of training, philosophy than like the P90Xs and the Insanities and like I said the
Hmm.
traditional bro splits, like that kind of thing. So, but it also I guess kind of made me more aware also of like feeling my body and performance. Like obviously there's some things like yeah you don't want to eat like a cheeseburger before you work out, but like
Yeah.
becoming more into the competition space has maybe look more into like how I feel in my body and how I'm taking care of it with recovery wise and that kind of thing. And honestly, just general like just education and knowledge of fitness overall and health and whatnot. So I just find that stuff interesting just to learn about, whether it's my personal practice, from trying to coach up somebody at my gym or that kind of thing. So that's probably been the biggest thing. Just an overall focus on lifestyle, health, and fitness.
Yeah.
And then I was again the what much of what this podcast is about, just kind of trying to branch the community of adaptive athletes. Because for the most part, and I don't think it's no secret that CrossFit's pretty homogenous with its demographics. So it's just cool to meet and see that there is a group of people like us that exist out there, and
Hmm.
hopefully growing it from that aspect. So
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the competition side of things. So you've been competing way longer than I've been competing. I did the Open in 23 and 24, but I think you've done it
okay.
for a while now. So tell me about your experience kind of growing up with adaptive CrossFit. You know what I mean? Like as the division has been growing, right? And the
Mhm.
growth pains it's been going through, what your experiences have been in it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like you can't talk about the adaptive CrossFit without mentioning wheel wide. So
Yeah.
I found wheel wide. I think it was probably 20. Must have been at this point 2020 or 2021. It just again kind of, I haven't heard about wheel wide, but think it was just primarily for lower extremity athletes, that kind of thing. Not knowing that they had all these different divisions that included myself. But there was a sense of relief, I guess, because going through the open workouts, it's like for example, there's the one workout where you're doing uh, burpee box jump overs and dumbbell snatches. Everyone else is alternating 150 dumbbell snatches, whereas you're having to do it one arm the
Hmm.
entire time, and thinking,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm doing the work. What does it matter? But when I would submit my score, submit my stuff, they would say, well, this doesn't count because you never alternated. I'm like, I'm doing a harder version of the workout. I'm doing all the same work. So it was just cool just to have an actual, organization cater to our group. And then obviously being excited about it when, they finally popped up in the CrossFit Open. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, the first couple of years with the Open, I was a little dismayed with some of the movements they had. So, a lot of the workouts I thought we could have done just fine with like minor adaptations, but they changed the workouts quite a bit. Whether it was like a barbell movement and maybe it was like a clean, but they switched it to like a front squat for us or something like that. And then having things like jumping pull-ups instead of just like regular pull-ups, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of that was just a lack of knowledge on their part. But just trying to be patient, knowing okay, that, they're hopefully they're gonna get this right. They're gonna hear our feedback and keep opening up their playbook as far as like what the workouts would entail and stuff. And eventually, which they finally have, team up with Wheelwide to give a more, a better experience for everybody,
Hmm.
competition wise and spectator wise. So,
Yeah. And so talking about the games this year, which we were both at, I mean, how do you
hmm
feel like the programming was and the division was for you this year in upper 2 point?
yeah. So, I mean, I was just excited just to have a full field. I mean, that was my first
Yeah.
time competing with that many guys at once. I mean, that in itself was awesome. Because like I said, prior years, I think the last time I did wheel wide, it was just myself and Josue. The year before that, like I mentioned, they had to combine the 1 point and 2 point, so we had 5 people, but it was a mismatch of a bunch of different, bunch of different people. But it was great. I mean, it was tough because we train a wide variety of like time domains, but a lot of the workouts were pretty quick, like sub 10 minutes.
Sub 8. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there were things get up and go, which are great, which are fun, but it's tough just to try to rev yourself up with
Hmm.
especially for somebody like myself. I feel like I kind of thrive more in that middle area, which goes back to having to switch up my training a little bit more, knowing that okay, well, seeing that that's might be the case going forward for future competitions, that they might shade towards the quicker, more intense side. So, but I thought they were great overall. I mean, I know they did the best they could with what they had, which I thought was still pretty good. It was nice not to have to cram 6 workouts in one day. You only you had your 1, 2, or 3 workouts, and you had get to spend a bunch of time recovering and actually watch other people compete and stuff. So that was good. So overall, that was good. The fact that they had muscle ups, that was pretty cool for us. Uppers. It's just
Oh,
another
bar
thing.
muscle ups.
Yep.
Yeah.
hmm
So
So
you
just
can do that transition with
yeah.
your, okay.
So that's another one thing I'm trying to work on because right now I don't use a strap or anything like that. So I revert back to my normal grip and then false grip and then try to get up. So I can string a couple of them together, but I'm trying to find a strap that allow me to strain more because it's just a lot of strain on my wrist to kind of do this the
Yeah.
entire time over the rig. And I'll see some of the other guys, that are like, at their elbow and they got the straps and they're just, busting them out. And I watched Casey Ackery do like, 20 unbroken. I'm like, well, I mean, if they can do it, I mean, there's no reason why I can't find a solution that works for me. So still working on trying to perfect that as well. But yeah, so and then they had the one workout where we're throwing stuff overhead.
Uh-huh.
So I will admit that on paper initially I was like, man, these are kind of different. But when you actually do the workouts, I was like, oh, that actually was pretty fun. So like that one specifically, doing like the max reps on the bench press and then kind of like the strongman stuff, like that was cool. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that initially. So
Did they have you guys do a rope climb in that one? In that
yep,
combine one? Okay.
yep. So we did do the row climb for that one too. So yes, that was the bench press, the climb, the
Yep.
back flip or the pig flip, and then it finished with us doing the row climb.
Yeah.
So.
Do you grab the rope like in your elbow kind of to hold it or?
No, so I'm able to. I mean, for the most part, it's really just I got it's just like a death grip in this hand, and I kind of like just
Yeah.
pinning my body with the other one. So I jump up and I kind of have this tight to my body here, and then lift my legs up, stand up, kind of
Yeah.
readjust,
Okay.
get back here, and then do it that way. So
But then when
um,
you do barbell movements, you are contacting the bar with both hands, right? You use like a grip or something like that to then. So when you snatch, you've got that bar sort of connected to your hand as you're snatching it.
correct. Yep. So like
Okay.
the weightlifting strap, it has like the loop on the one end and then the long end on the other. So basically, I'm wrapping the whole thing around the barbell, sliding the end through the loop, tightening it, and then sliding my hand into the loop so that's tight to the
Yep.
rig, and then just the excess just gets wrapped around the barbell. So I know a lot of people like that probably like, well, that doesn't seem too safe, but I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much an expert at slipping out of it last second if I need to bail like on a
Okay.
snatch,
Okay.
clean or anything like that. So I was gonna say, and then sometimes I'll use my figure eight strap too if the weight's not too heavy because the one drawback with my strap with the regular weightless strap is that with high reps it gets loose and loose and loose and loose. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of capped at how many reps I can do consecutively. Even though maybe I could do 20 reps if it would stay in place, but the strap gets loose. I need to, retighten it and get back on. So the one good thing with the figure eight is that it is what it is. There's no loops or gives or anything.
Yeah.
So my hand just sits into it. But it's still not that comfortable with heavy weight. So it's more of like a light to moderate weight implement that I use. So
Okay. So a little bit of insider baseball. There was a workout at the 2024 games called double sided coin. You had to do a certain amount of work as a buy-in and then just max snatches in the remaining time,
okay.
right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you strapped in for that and like never unstrapped, or what'd you do for that one? Because I feel like, man, if I had to restrap every time, I would just hate like the time loss in a workout like that, right?
That's always so when I would go into a workout and I'm trying to figure out, okay, like doing the mental math of how long something takes me. I mean that's definitely something I gotta count is the transition time, whether it's you say
Yeah.
strapping yourself in to the barbell or to the rig. So for that workout specifically, I think my goal was to try to do 2 to 3 reps at a time. And then seeing what everybody else was doing, that because so a lot of workouts where people would probably do singles. For me, I try to do it like 2 to 3 reps because I
Yeah.
know I had that transition, that extra time having to strap up and stuff. So, but seeing that everybody else for the most part was doing singles, that made me feel better. I was like, okay, well, I know I can kind of hang with everybody as long as I stay with the 2 to 3 reps. I think towards the end of the workout, I started doing singles because I started getting burnt out like everybody else was. um, but yeah, so I mean, it's not ideal. Sometimes, depending on the work, I tell myself it's just it's just built-in rest when I need it. But
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've gotten pretty good at getting it on quick. But with certain workouts where there is a lot of movements, so that transition time adds up. It definitely is a factor, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of being adaptive, right? Is having to account for the extra transition time, whether for me it's like CNS fatigue and I'm like
Okay,
just out, or it's having to strap into an implement or something like that.
yeah, for sure,
So
for sure.
all right, lightning round. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, dude. All right, dude. So you have a choice: 100 wall balls or 100 box jumps.
Ooh, 100 wall balls.
Really? Figured
Yeah,
you'd go for the
100.
box jumps. Okay.
Wall balls are my jam. Wall balls are my jam.
I love it. I love it. All right. You are at the gym. You've got control of the radio. You can play whatever you want for the rest of the week. What are you playing?
Man. Uh, I'm kind of guilty of having ADD with the radio, but probably I would say Ludacris.
Oh,
Yeah, Ludacris
okay.
is probably yeah. He's got good variety of good thumpers, some club hits in there.
Oh,
So
he definitely does.
oh yeah, so I think it's for the most part people like Luda. You're not gonna get too many people who are like Ludacris. You're not gonna
No, I
turn up
mean,
their
he,
about it.
two things about Ludacris that are amazing. One, he rhymed lettuce with shoe fetish.
Yes.
Uh,
Good knowledge there. I like that.
and second, he always self-references himself in all of his raps.
Oh
And you got to give
yes.
him credit for that.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've always been a big Luda fan, and outside of the minor resemblance between the two of us, which I get all the time, but
I
it's
see
a
it now,
good
dude. I love
it's a
it.
good one. Yep, yep. So that probably would be my guess.
All right. If you could design a workout, what movements would be in it?
Oh man. Probably heavy cleans. Some kind of machine works, whether it's echoes or rowing, and then probably burpees.
All right. And then last question. We were talking about how you have some kids at home, and so you've been watching a lot of Bluey. What's your favorite
Mhm.
Bluey episode?
Oh man, favorite Bluey episode. It's something definitely something. You know what? All right, just the first one popped into my mind is when Chili is trying to hunt down the kids, and the kids are with Grandpa. And
Okay.
she's so the grandpa is trying to like spend extra time with them, and the mom Chili is just like upset, like, oh, you need to slow down, you need to take it easy. But she's like tracking them like a dog. Like, she's like picking up on like on a footprint. She's like
Yes.
smelling the air and like it's just kind of funny. It kind of reminds me of some like the old like Rambo movies I used to watch back in the day or something like that. So
And then like the moral of that one, right, is like she and her dad used to always go down to that creek too, right? And she finds her
yeah,
name written there, and then inevitably we're all crying and we don't know why, and our kids are
exactly.
confused, and it's
That's accurate. Yep. Yeah.
That's Bluey in a nutshell, man. I'm like, why am I crying right now? I don't understand. Awesome,
Yeah.
dude. All right. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, I just have really two more questions for you. One, if someone walked into a CrossFit gym with an impairment like yours, what would you tell a coach to look out for?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say, give them, at least tell them, hey, like, there's two different ways we can go about this. Like, do you want to go about this like a 1 point person? Do you want to go about this like a 2 point person? There's no
Yeah.
right and wrong answer. It kind of just depends on what's comfortable and like what, if there's any, minute differences that are, separate that person from another as far as the capability of the hands. But try to nail that down. And then, hey, some days we'll spend some time working as a 1 point. Sometimes we'll spend it working as a 2 point. And really it's just, making sure first that you're stable with the movement. If you are, because you are balancing something on a uneven, it's not like your other hand, so you don't have all your fingers to kind of control and safely move the barbell, whatever whatever equipment you have. But just making sure that you're always keeping safety in the forefront. And then like most things, once you're able to demonstrate that you can do it repeatedly, then you can start adding a little bit of the intensity and start creeping up in weight with some of the whether it's a barbell or kettlebell wears that you're doing. So
I like that. I like that advice for a coach. Be creative in the sense of asking the athlete, do you want to do this as a 1 point or a 2 point? And then go into all the training that you know from your L1 or your L2.
Because there might be some instances where where you might do that as like as a 1 point athlete. There might be some instances where you actually prefer doing it as a 2 point athlete. I mean, unless you have some dreams of actually competing, and there's nothing wrong with mixing it up if that's the case too. So
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Final question. If you could go back and talk to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell them to encourage them?
Man, I would say this is probably cliche, but don't underestimate the value of a good recovery day.
Okay.
Yeah, just because we all have been, I feel like been to that point where the PRs are coming and flying, and like you're loving seeing yourself get stronger and get more fit and stuff. But you know what? It's okay if mentally you're not there. Mentally, you just need to check out. Hey, like, I just need to sit home and do nothing, or maybe I just go for a walk today, and that's perfectly fine. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Missing a training day is not going to wreck the whole cycle. It's not going to wreck your whole year. Listen to your body, take care of it, and yeah, it'll be good.
Well, thanks so much, Lloyd. I appreciate it, man. This was great.
Yeah, this is fun. Let me know if you ever want to have me back. This was good.
Okay, dude. Definitely. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. See you.
See you.
One thing I really loved about Lloyd's story is how he combined his passion for coaching with his passion for competing. And so he's always thinking about ways to recover better, ways to be a better athlete, ways to adapt better. We do that as adaptive athletes all the time. We're thinking about ways to get that little bit more performance out of ourselves, whether that's finding a better way to grip the rig or finding a better way to push our CNS so that it doesn't crash out on us, but can get to a really high heart rate while still being able to recover. Those are things that adaptive athletes just think about all the time. And you're going to hear stories like that on this podcast in different ways that adaptive athletes figure things out. So thank you, Lloyd, for being here, for helping us see the ways that you are figuring it out. Two quick things I want to make sure that you know about. First, the CrossFit Open registration closes on Monday, March 3rd. So if you're looking to register through WheelWOD, there are two things that you got to do. First, you got to go to wheelwod.com and you got to get classified. That means you got to fill out a form, give them a little bit of money so that they can do the work behind the scenes of getting you classified, looking over your documentation with a professional to get you in the right category. And second, you need to go to Competition Corner and sign up for the Adaptive CrossFit Open presented by WheelWOD. You can do both those things at the same time. You don't have to wait to get the classification. You can just sign up for the Open on Competition Corner, take a guess at what category you'll be in, and WheelWOD will help you sort that out and actually get you in the right category. But make sure that you get on both those platforms. Get registered on Competition Corner and get classified at wheelwod.com. The second thing I want you to know about is on Monday, March 3rd, we're going to be going live for a live call-in show to hear about your experiences with 25.1. So follow us on Instagram at the Adaptive Athlete Pod so that you can find the link for that live show on Monday and subscribe to the podcast. We'll be putting out episodes on Mondays and Thursdays going forward. I'm Matt Hotho. I'll see you next time.